I'm hoping you can see and hear me now. Hello, another big warm welcome. My name is Nella Hidayat. Apologies for the technical interruption that we've experienced on this live stream. For those of you who are still here, right on, man. I feel like you are with us on this. For those of you who are joining us and watching us on catch up, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming back to see this amazing show that we have put together for you. Now, a big warm welcome for today's special live stream. As I mentioned earlier, we are commemorating International Youth Day, and the event today is called No More Youth Tokenism. Hopefully you're watching us on Facebook or catch up, and the hashtag for today is claiming our space. So if you are going to be sharing our content on social media or your thoughts or your comments, please use that hashtag. Now, today, the event is being organised by the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety with generous support from our programme partners, the Total Energies Foundation and the Michelin Corporate Foundation. Thank you both for your contributions. The event is also an official spotlight session for the United Nations Youth Envoy's Youth-Led Innovation Festival, which has been running from Thursday through to today. My name is Nelofer Hidayat, my pronouns are she, her. I'm a documentary filmmaker and a correspondent for the Doha debates. Welcome. Now, fun fact for you. Today's generation of young people is the largest ever in history. Over 3 billion people, and nearly half of them under the age of 25. Yet the youth often have little to no say on many of the issues that affect their day-to-day lives and their hopeful futures. And the biggest threat to the future of young people worldwide? Well, consider this heartbreaking fact. Road traffic injuries have been the leading killer of young people aged 15 to 29 worldwide for over a decade. So why are young people so often, too often, not included in solving these man-made problems? Young people have a right to be adequately informed, consulted, and empowered to contribute to this massive threat to their lives. And yet many initiatives that take place end up being, well, there's no other word for it, tokenistic. We can all agree that no event sets out to be tokenistic. There's no hidden agenda or a token committee that designs these initiatives. Yet, as you know, it still happens. Today, we're here to say no more tokenism and explore what meaningful youth participation actually means. It's going to be a very special live stream embedded with real youth voices. We'll hear from experts and youth leaders. In the next hour or so, we'll also be intertwined with meaningful artistic expression, so much artistic expression. I can't wait to share that with you. Plus, we have collaborations with Soul City Arts and the Youth Arts Movement Uganda to bring you artistic expressions that move the discussion and the agenda forward. It's a jam-packed show. I'm glad that you stayed with us. Now, in the spirit, I'd love for you all to say hello to me in the chat box if you can. Tell me where you're watching from and perhaps share one word or one emoji to express how you're feeling right now. Ready, set, go. Type away. As you do so, please welcome and introduce, I'm pleased to welcome and introduce our first speaker, a friend of mine, Jayatma Wickramanayake, United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth. She has a special few words to kick off the celebration of International Youth Day, as well as reminding us all why meaningful youth participation is so important in 2021, more so than it has ever been. Jayatma.
Happy International Youth Day, everyone. My name is Jayatma Wickramanayake, and I am the United Nations Secretary General's Envoy on Youth. It is a pleasure to be connecting with young people all over the world to celebrate this important day. It's incredible to think that young people like you and me make up the largest generation that our world has ever seen. With the collective power of more than 1.8 billion young people globally, our generation has the opportunity to be the largest driving force to create meaningful change and to help achieve a more equal and sustainable future for all of us. But we are not only the largest generation of change makers, we are also the most interconnected one. The young people of today are digital natives that have been contributing to the resilience of their communities and countries, proposing innovative solutions, driving social progress, and inspiring transparent and inclusive political change. Time and time again, we see young people at the front lines of developing new solutions and becoming pillars of their communities, despite facing multidimensional challenges in their day-to-day lives. Today's youth continue to face the devastating impacts of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, which has put millions of vulnerable young people at risk for their physical and mental health, while also increasingly coping with the fear of unemployment and being out of school. At the same time, young people also disproportionately find themselves facing the irreversible impacts of the climate crisis that threatens the survival of our planet. Yet, despite all of this, young people continuously lead the way in safeguarding the future, making sure that progress and solutions are not halted even when faced with great challenges and limited resources. The creativity and ingenuity of young people in developing innovative solutions must be acknowledged. It is clear that innovation will only become more relevant as our world moves forward. But youth-led innovation is not merely relevant, it is imperative if we are to recover better together from this pandemic. That is why on International Youth Day, I hope you will join me in celebrating the remarkable work and the perseverance of young people in delivering innovative solutions all around the world. This year, for the first time ever, my office is hosting a fully virtual Youth Lead Innovation Festival as a platform to celebrate and provide a space for young innovators, especially those from more vulnerable and marginalized communities. When we first launched the UN's youth strategy, Youth 2030, it was designed explicitly with the goal of allowing the UN to become a knowledge and innovation pioneer, and we know firsthand that we will not be able to do so without engaging with young people as equal partners in the process. In this spirit, I'm challenging us all to continue highlighting and elevating the leadership of young solution makers and to most importantly, continue meaningfully engaging youth in all of their diversity. To achieve the future we all want, we must ensure that no young person is left behind. Today and every day, I hope that you all take opportunities like this to share more about your work and how you have been making a positive impact in your community. If there is one thing that I'm always confident about, it is the fact that our world is not short on ideas and solutions led by young people. And we want to hear what you have to say. I encourage all young people to join the conversation online using the hashtag YouthLead on social media, and together let's show the world the magnitude of young people's power and potential. Thank you once again and happy International Youth Day.
Very, very well put, Jathma. Always inspiring and uplifting to hear from you. I'm sure I'll catch up with you soon. Those of you joining us from India, Kenya, Estonia, Philippines, the United Kingdom, Ecuador, Nigeria, Rwanda, Belize, Botswana, Peru, I've run out of breath. Welcome to our live stream. We want to absolutely include you in everything that we do. So make sure you keep commenting and make sure you keep chatting to us throughout the rest of the show. Now, we all know we want to create a world where youth innovation is central to all that we do. But sadly, many initiatives, projects, programs fall short in many ways, and young people are just left behind. So if we want to engage youth meaningfully, what does it mean? Well, first, we must ensure we avoid the pitfalls of non-meaningful youth participation, from manipulation to decoration to tokenism. Meaningful youth participation is more about young people's initiating projects, the youth sharing the decision-making process with adults, and the young people being consulted, informed, and more about the solutions towards their most pressing issues. It's about opening the door to a real intergenerational dialogue. Check out this video that explains it in a bit more detail.
What is non-meaningful participation? Manipulation is when young people are used to support a cause. Young people are not in control of the event and are used to make a cause seem more attractive. Tokenism refers to young people being invited to participate, but in a superficial way, or as a way to tick a box. There are different levels of meaningful participation. Level 1. Young people are appointed a role but don't have decision-making power, have limited voice, and no responsibility. Level 2. Young people are consulted and informed. They may be asked for their input and opinions, however, they have no decision-making power and limited responsibility. Level 3. Adult-led shared decisions with youth. Adults are primarily in charge, but they include young people. Young people have some decision-making power, responsibilities, and have a voice. However, adults have the final say. Level 4. Young people are in charge, but they share decision-making power with adults. Level 5. Youth-led programs. Without adult involvement, young people are fully in charge and are completely autonomous. Young people may reach out and consult with adults if they feel it would add to the process. Level 6. Youth-adult partnership. Young people and adults are equally involved and share power. Organizations have to actively and consciously plan for MYP. Where is your organization on the continuum? What do you need to change to make MYP real?
Right, now we all know what we mean by those words. It's time for the first of our artistic expressions. I'm so delighted to talk about this next bit. Get ready to be inspired by the artists who are going to be sharing their art forms to capture this particular discussion and debate in ways that often policies and talking heads and debate shows cannot always express. Where words fail, art speaks. Yours and the Youth Coalition for Road Safety believe that artistic expression has the power to transform perceptions, move the agenda forward, and capture the emotion that we all feel collectively around these big topics around road safety. Now, I will be joined by one of our artists, Mohammed Ali, MBE from Soul City Arts. You are a resident artist at the Second World Youth Assembly and have created an atmosphere artistically that has lit up rooms and illustrated, quite literally, the power of art to inspire change. Mohammed, you are going to be drawing live throughout this live stream, and ever so often I will be returning to you to have a bit of a catch up and see how long you've gotten, how far you've gotten in your amazing drawings on your iPad that I'm hoping we can see in a moment. Mohammed, hello, how are you?
Hi, Nelfa. I'm very good, thanks.
Now that you and I are connected, your mission is to create something from nothing. I love this process of having nothing, and by the end of this, hopefully we'll connect with you and we can speak about what has inspired you the most. But for now, tell me, how does art contribute to the conversations we are going to be having?
Well, for me, and I think I speak for many people in the arts, often the arts are left off the table, if you like, and they're always seen as something which is a bit of entertainment, a bit of eye candy, a bit of hand claps, but actually the purpose and taking art beyond art for art's sake and actually making it integral and at the forefront for change. We know now that actually that there are social problems in the world that perhaps we're going around in circles, and we need to look at alternative new ways of dealing with these problems. And it's often the failure of perhaps men in grey suits who don't have the innovation or the ideas or the out of the box thinking. And that's where art comes into play, really. Art needs to be at the table, at the forefront, in fact, for change. Because through art, and when I say art, I mean in all of the different disciplines, visual arts, from the music, we know now, and I'm probably preaching to the converted when I say art must be at the forefront for that change and go beyond art for art's sake.
And just one quick question for you. The people on the stream right now, as I mentioned before, from all corners of the world, watching us, connecting with us, trying to understand this life-threatening issue for millions and millions of people worldwide. We might not all speak the same language, we might not all have the same environments that we live in, but we can all speak art, can't we?
Absolutely, yeah, a universal language, the colors, even the interface that you see around us right now, which has been especially designed, the Zoom kind of gloom that we all experience of seeing the mug shots, head and shoulder shots, we all know what we're talking, we all experienced it, but even the design around us, I think everybody globally, wherever you are, you can appreciate the tires in this corner. Is it over here or is it in that side? I don't know. You got a crowd of people there, the colors and the tone, and it invokes a certain feeling that goes beyond kind of language and transcends.
So Muhammad Ali, MBE, I will be coming to you soon, but for now, I'm going to let you start creating, and hopefully by the end of this live stream, we'll have something to show for it. So please do crack on, and thank you. I'll be joining you soon. Now, of course, we want to make sure that art and artistic expression is part of the day, but we also want to hear from key decision makers. So without any further ado, let's jump to our first segment, panel discussion, to hear about the work different institutions and different sectors have done towards the formalization of meaningful youth participation in their work. Here are a few people I spoke with earlier. So to our first panel then, and what a roster of people I have coming up. We are joined by Oliver Nalwada, who's the Youth Advisory Board Member at the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. Hello. Martin Seychelles is the Deputy Director General for International Partnership at the European Union Commission. Monica Skadborg, you are the board member for the European Youth Forum. Hello, how are you? Pleased to see you. And Lane Robinson is the Head of Social Policy at the Commonwealth Secretariat. Now, I want to start, Oliver, with a very simple question. From your perspective specifically, and in your sector and experience, why is engaging young people in meaningful participation important and valuable? After all, they don't vote, they don't pay taxes, so why should we have them involved at key decision-making that affects every citizen in the country?
At the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety, we believe a meaningful engagement of young people enables us to factor in the voices of the majority, but also the voices of the people who are most affected by the road safety pandemic globally. So it's only fair if we are appealing to the humanity of everyone to engage those who are most affected in the decision-making procedures and to meaningfully engage them in the different projects and programs that we implement. In addition to that, meaningful youth participation enables us to fulfill our commitment to young people, but also to different conventions. For example, if you look at the UN Convention for the Rights of a Child, it clearly states that children and young people have a fundamental right to participate and access information relating to decision-making in key issues that affect them. And road safety, once again, if I may repeat, is the biggest killer of young people globally. So for us, engaging young people is really valuable to us. It's cost-effective in a way that as we invest in training, in mentoring young people, we build a vibrant population or a vibrant group of young people who are willing, who are skillful, and who bring a new perspective as we handle global issues such as road safety.
Monica Skadborg, you are a board member of the European Youth Forum, so arguably as a young person you have more say and you can have more of a role to play in decision making than anyone else. Are you being heard? Does youthful does the participation of young people, is that valued in institutions like the European Youth Forum and beyond?
Well, I think sometimes we do manage to get decision makers to pay attention to us and to value young people's inputs. And I think when we are successful in that, we also get better results. So the meaningful engagement of youth not only is our right, but it's also something that decision makers can see leads to better decisions. So we spend a lot of our time working for convincing decision makers that they actually need to pay attention to young people. And I think when it goes well, it actually really makes a difference.
Do you find that there's like a reluctance to adopt these things? So it might be that you try it out once and everyone's like, wow, the European Youth Forum had a point there. But then getting that to be part of the system of change, part of the system of action is not as easy. And can you give me an example?
Yeah, I think it's getting more fashionable to listen to young people or to look like you're listening to young people. But then we're getting a lot of these one-offs that are maybe a little bit more of a selfie opportunity than an actual engagement. So that doesn't help as much. Then in other cases, we actually manage to slowly build a good habit of continuously engaging young people in a more sort of structured way and continuing to do it and following up even. And that's when it really helps.
I bet you can sniff the difference, as it were, between one and the other. I bet you can. We'll come on to that. Martin Seychelles, if I might come to you, the Deputy Director General of the International Partnerships at the European Union Commission. You are in the firehouse of decision making when it comes to Europe. What do you think of that? What Monica just said about there are moments when it's tokenistic and moments when that meaningfulness is part of the decision-making process. And how do you encourage there to be more of the latter?
Well, thank you. I mean, indeed, it's really important to go beyond tokenism, and for a very simple reason. Youth participation and youth empowerment is an absolute must, given the kind of challenges, the scale of the challenges we are facing, where simply, we need complete departure from the ways of we've done things in the past, and for that reason we need the voice of youth. We're very conscious of that in the Commission. We see youth participation, youth empowerment as a cross-cutting priority, something which my Commissioner Jutta Urpilainen attaches great importance for good reason. I mean, we have 1.8 billion young people in the world today, many of them, the vast majority, living in our partner countries, and indeed countries that are still progressing towards development. Youth make an even bigger share of the population, yet young people often lack the opportunity to have a real say in decisions which affect them.
Why?
Well, I mean, we asked this question some time ago. When we launched last year our Your Voice, Your Future digital campaign, we wanted to listen directly to what young people had to say. And just under 500,000 children and young people across Africa and Europe, aged between 14 and 35, responded on a lot of topics: climate change, green transition, education, skills, jobs, governance, peace, security. So all the big issues of our time. And the findings were quite, stark. 91% of young people, and this is young people in Africa and Europe, they want to be involved in decision-making processes, but over 2/3 of them claimed and said they did not have access to decision makers. So that's clearly, I think, something we have to change. And that's indeed what we're trying to do, because we need that voice. It's not just a good thing to do, it's an absolute necessity.
And I can hear in your voice, if I may say, Martin Seychelles, that this is a desperate desire. You desperately seek for this to happen, because either the change is going to be made by us globally, or it's going to happen to us globally. And so, Lane Robinson, if I can come to you, in your work as the head of social policy at the Commonwealth Secretariat, what have you noticed in terms of this idea, the impetus being put on having more voices of young people involved? And I don't mean just asking them one-off questions in a report or anything like that, but actually systematic implementation of that. What can you say to that?
In the Commonwealth, our governments have signaled their real intent to integrate youth perspectives into decision making. In fact, at the last heads of government meeting, one of the main things they said was they needed to see a mainstreaming of youth perspectives into all development thinking and planning, which really means that what you want to see is not just young people being invited in at points in time, but to have them at all points in the development thinking and planning, from your designing the idea or the concept, to have a youth perspective there, all the way to when the project has been implemented and you're monitoring and evaluating it. You want to hear how young people felt about that. And as you have said, the reasons from the other panelists are very clear. It is a right for young people to be participating in decision making. And the demographics speak to why it's important. But it's a bigger issue. It's not just about young people. It's about our concept of what is good governance and what is our concept of what democracy is. Democracy is, if I understand it correctly, a type of governance where we invite people to share power and to work together for the benefit of all. Good governance principles say that if you're going to do policy or any kind of policy, you must consult and hear from the people who will be impacted by the policy or action. And that is not just about young people. So while this conversation is about young people, indeed, and in fact, there are many other parts of society that are also being left out of the conversation that need to be listened to. And that goes to groups like disabled community and other vulnerable populations. So what you're seeing with the young people is probably a huge problem because of the size, but it's not just about young people. It's about how we understand what good governance is all about, how we understand democracy in the modern era.
And Elaine Robertson, before I come to our final question of the panel, which will be about examples of meaningful youth participation that you have seen, I want to ask the harder question. And Oliver, if I can come to you, give me an example of when it hasn't gone right, when the intention has been there and people have tried to do the best that they can, but actually it's resulted in something that has been less than desirable. What is it that we keep getting wrong when it comes to meaningful youth participation?
I would say from my take, it's investment. Meaningful youth participation takes investment, it takes resources. So where we often go wrong is we talk the talk, but we don't walk the walk. We say we want to engage young people, but we are not investing them to lead local actions in their communities. We are not giving them the platform to participate on national and global platforms. So to me, I feel like if we invest more in young people, in trainings, in capacity building sections, we shall see the profit, or we shall see the benefit of meaningfully engaging them. For example,
please go on, please.
No, I was going to say, for example, recently the Youth Advisory Board, as we're reviewing the plan of action for the second decade of road safety, we realized that there is no single mention of the word youth. And yet that document clearly states that young people are most affected by road traffic crashes. So this was an initiative that was started by young people to review that document. We came up with a paper that we've submitted for consideration, and we've sought buy-in from key actors in the road safety movement. So as we invest in young people, we shall, as we increase our investment in terms of resources, we shall be able to see the fruits of our investment and not just talk about meaningful youth engagement.
Very, very good point, well made. For my other three participants in this discussion so far, if we focus specifically on this idea of road safety, I'm going to be honest with you, it's not sexy. It's not as sexy as climate change. It's not as sexy as saving the rhinos or trying to fill the ozone or do anything like that. And yet it is, as has been mentioned multiple times, it is the single biggest killer of young people globally around the world. Indeed, groups in Africa, groups in the subcontinent of India have come up to say that this is something that is killing young people and that change needs to be made. And there is agreement all round. So I'm setting up a very particular scenario for you. We all know that we want the roads to be safer. We know that young people are killed on the roads more frequently than any other age group. Why has there been no change? And how can meaningful youth participation change that? Can I come to you, Monica?
I think one of the reasons why we see sometimes a discrepancy between the needs of young people and what decision makers then do is actually the lack of representation and participation of young people. It's one of the things about democracy that is supposed to be the beautiful thing, right? That when everyone has their voices heard, then everyone's needs are equally met. But we see that there is an overrepresentation of some groups in decision making and in holding more power. And there is an underrepresentation of young people. And then what that unfortunately leads to, not for lack of trying or anything, but just for lack of having the same experiences and priorities, then it just leads to an unbalance in how we prioritize action. So if, for example, we could save a lot of young people by lowering the speed limits or having better traffic planning or fewer cars in the city centers or better bicycle lanes, there's a lot of young people on bikes because we don't have any money or any kids yet. If we could take any of these initiatives, and it would be important enough for us to prioritize it, but then we are not in charge, and those who are in charge have other priorities, then it just doesn't happen.
Martin and Lyndon, I'd like to ask you the same question as we get towards the end of this section. Martin, if I could come to you first. You live in typically one of the most safest streets on earth. You and I both live in Europe. We know that speeding tickets or charging around or underage driving is nothing that's going to be, you can't get away with it as easily. There is a clear global north and global south divide when it comes to road safety and the way it affects people. Lane, I'm going to come to you in a moment, but Martin, how can the global north help those of us in the global south achieve the same standards and the same hopes? Because you cannot be an entrepreneur if you cannot get your product or yourself on the road. You cannot go to school if you cannot use the road safely. It is a fundamental right of young people to be able to have this. So how can the global north, how can people like you, in fact, Martin, encourage that and help that to succeed in the global south?
Well, yes, of course, the key to this is listening and listening also to the right people. There is an increasing amount, of course, north-south dialogue, but it doesn't always happen with the right people. And especially one of the big issues with development, and these big issues, I mean, some better known than others, are that precisely we need to make sure that we are understanding and listening carefully to all that the global south has to say. So it's important. This cannot just be, a government-to-government approach, because very often development issues affect people in everyday life, and that's what we need to understand, because it's very easy to make mistakes with the best of intentions by thinking we know what the issue is, but not really understanding the issue, and that happens all too often, I'm afraid to say. So
Lane Robinson, you can come in with the last word. And I want to just get what everyone has said so far is good intentions are not enough. Listening is a key skill, making sure that young people are part of any solution that's developed. It's all things that you've spoken to, but in your role specifically, and when it comes to road safety, how do you make sure that young people are brought on board as part of the solution, and especially making sure that this is happening as much in the global south as it is in the global north?
No, thank you. Part of the challenge we have is that, policies are being made based on a lot of things, influence of key specialist interests, lobbies, etc. But part of what is missing is also that we're not using evidence-based youth policy making. We're not making youth policy based on the evidence. And so in my role, we have worked, and in this International Youth Day, we're launching our Youth Development Index. And what that attempts to do is to pull together what the data says about what are the priorities of young people. So it's not about what I think or what I feel, it's what does the data say. And obviously what the data says about youth safety on the roads is very clear. And so what we have done is we've incorporated that measure into our index so that we can try to talk about that issue. And I think once you have people sit around the table and faced with the vast amount of overwhelming evidence, what do you have to do? Action must follow. So I think in addition to what the other panelists have said about listening to young people, getting them at the table, the data and putting the evidence in front of our policymakers speaks volumes at times and actually makes a big difference when you need to see action going forward.
And with that, we have laid out the case. Lane Robinson, Monica Skadborg, Martin Seychelles, and Oliver Nalwada. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you to all of our wonderful contributors. We can summarize everything you've had in this. We must first listen, then act. We must always invest. And here is the absolute key bit of it. We must institutionalize meaningful youth participation. Only then will we have more not only then will we have more active engagement and less tokenism. Let's have a quick look at what Mohammed has been creating for us on his iPad. I've been watching this happen in real life, and I'm telling you guys, I can't quite believe that a moment ago that was a blank sheet, and now we can see him creating an image to represent everything that's going on in our live stream today. Thank you for joining us, Mohammed, live from your studio in Birmingham. Let's just take a moment to absorb all that. It looks absolutely wonderful. Now, from one artistic expression, we move to another, a very special one. We are heading over to Kampala, Uganda, to Chao Nanyobe, as she expresses what youth participation means for her. Check this out.
When you say youth deserve a seat at the table, do you want the seat filled or the seat used? Thanks to you all who treasure, respect, and provide us with space safe enough to speak and share our youthfulness and crazy, creative juices. When I was a child, crossing the roads wasn't easy. Adulting now, crossing the roads is still dead busy. I look right, left, and right again till I get dizzy. Narrowly, I made it through today. Look, you were right here in the same shoes yesterday. I am not too young to know. Engage and work with me more. You would love it, how it feels inside. To know what I know as you also pass the torch to light the path. Sometimes I may sound crazy. Yes, 'cause maybe I've been rejected, laid back for so long. These baby steps you urge me to persistently take seem delusional. That we are the leaders of tomorrow? Tomorrow? Tomorrow we shall be youth no more. Say it with me. Tomorrow we shall be youth no more. We are leaders now. Today, from our mistakes and your mentorship, we can do better. The youth age is the peak for every human, and we want to help. So when our careless selves walk side by side on these streets, we don't want to be merely street-siders. Will you work with us to make these streets safer, livable again? To walk fearless on these pavements, with street lights in the night to protect us from sexual harassment. Safe roads connect us to our dreams. They connect us to our dreams. But how can we realize our dreams when our roads are filled with death trap cars? Together, we can make climate work in our favor again. The youth in Africa, Asia, Europe, and America won't stop claiming it. The future, a more connected, livable, and sustainable world, where youth deaths by road crashes stop topping the statistics. Then, and only then, shall we know that the seat at the table was used and not merely filled, because that space was ours in the first place if you trust your steps. Will you now, more than ever, work with us? Will you now, more than ever, work with us? Will you now, more than ever, work with us?
We want a world where a seat at the table is used and not merely filled. Thank you, Hawa. Absolutely incredible words and poetry. And that video, thank you for sending us that video. A big shout out to Yamu, the youth arts movement Uganda, who through creativity, art and collaboration use their incredible skills to reduce poverty, to improve employability, to help encourage enterprise, innovation and education. Not much then. Okay, please do make sure that you are sharing your thoughts and views about everything that you have seen so far on our live stream today. What did that poem make you feel? What has been the most impactful thing you've seen so far on the show? Do get in touch with us. We love to hear from you. So now we are joined in another discussion, but this time with young leaders to speak about their experiences of a process where meaningful youth participation successfully took place and why it was so powerful because of it. First up, we spoke to Matthew Chao. He's a regional director for Asia Pacific for the International Federation of Medical Students Association. He's a fifth-year medical student studying at the University of Hong Kong. He's a fifth-year medical student studying at the University of Hong Kong, and this is his video contribution.
Hi, my name is Matthew, and I'm the IFMSA Regional Director for the Asia Pacific, and I'm also a fifth-year medical student studying at the University of Hong Kong. And today I've been kindly asked to share a little bit about how IFMSA works in the realm of meaningful youth engagement. So a little bit about how...
What is non-meaningful participation? Manipulation is when young people are used to support a cause. Young people...
Some technical issues. This is live. We're doing the best that we can. As we wait for Matthew Chao's contribution, I'd like to perhaps move on. Yana Inas is a sustainability activist, and she's currently the Senior Global Campaigns Coordinator for Restless Development, helping young people from any background achieve a more just and sustainable world. Inas, over to you.
Thank you. Yes, I am here. Hopefully you can see me. And I would love to talk to you about my personal experience as a sustainability activist, but also tie that into my work at Restless Development. I am Peruvian, I'm 25 years old, and I know that young people can meaningfully participate in decision-making processes, and I'm sure you can too. So hopefully this story inspires you today. Where I'm from, and actually anywhere in the world, plastic pollution is a huge issue. And in case you weren't aware, we eat the equivalent of a credit card plastic per week. When I was 15, I decided to join a group doing something about this topic. So I joined Loop, Life Out of Plastic. And one of our campaigns was a national beach cleanup, collecting data across the whole coastline of Peru. This not only allowed us to tackle the issue directly, but also it helped us inform policies later down the line. So after 7 years of cleaning up beaches and other natural spaces, because we branched out to rivers and wetlands, we were able to inform some policies. We were able to find a lot of data that included, for example, finding plastic bags, bottles, bottle caps. And with that information, not only brands became more aware of their impact, but they started changing their packaging, but people also started asking for change from the governments, and the government started implementing laws. So this is how, after 7 years, as I mentioned before, in 2018, 15 bills were presented to Congress to regulate the use of single-use plastic. And in the session where the law was presented, our data was quoted directly as key evidence to need for action from the government. And this led to an almost unanimous vote in favor of the new policy with only one abstention to vote. So now in Peru, with this law, single-use plastic can no longer be given freely to customers. So this is my personal experience as an activist. And then tying this into my job today as coordinator at Restless and the work that Restless does, I found some different trends. The first thing is the power of partnerships. And although the voice of one person is super important, the voices of thousands added up, and that collaboration and network is extremely powerful. Decision makers can say we're powerful, but it's different for them to actually give us the power. And in this case, we just claimed that power by showing tangibly what we were doing on the ground actually was impacting policies. And this is something that we're doing at Restless as well in terms of the Youth Collective. We work with a collective of civil society organizations, and we bring them together, showing that that power of partnerships can bring about change. So that's the first thing. Bring a group of people together and you'll be more powerful. The second thing is the accountability model. And basically our research and our data were a powerful advocate for change. It helped inform the demands that we have in the change of policy. And another example of this within the work that we do at Restless is our Resilient Realities youth-led research project. And this explored the impact of COVID in the pandemic in youth civil society organizations around the world and identified what resourcing and support was needed. And the reason I mentioned this, because this ties into my third and last point, is that this was a funded project. And this made things go a lot faster, because the third thing I was going to say is be patient. Impacting change in decision-making structures takes time. In the case of the plastic pollution story I shared, it took 7 years. If we'd stopped 5 years down the line thinking that we weren't making an impact, there wouldn't have been a change. But 7 years down the line, it worked. And we realized that if funders put money behind things, it takes less time, and that longer term investment helps us as well achieve the change we want to see. So my bottom line is make sure that you're getting together with other young people, that you're working together towards a goal, however long that takes, and using that accountability model to impact the decision-making structures you are in. Thank you.
Inas, absolutely important, crucial, pivotal points for the first time today. I think we heard it coming from someone who's living somewhere where that change is impacting your environment in an incredible way. So thank you for your contributions. Thank you for everything you've done. And thank you for sharing those very useful points. I want to move on now to Sana Khassaouna. You are part of Yours Road Safety. Sana is an architect with a master's degree in road safety management, and recently Sana co-founded the Road Safety Trio startup to offer professional services on local and international scale. About this, Sana, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm so
Sana,
happy to be
I can't
here
hear
to speak
you.
about
I don't know if you
my
can hear me. Are you
experience
there?
in achieving meaningful youth engagement in road safety in my country, Jordan. So this story began last year when I finished my master's in road safety management. After that, I decided to start my own initiative, Deterrent on the Road, and my aim was to introduce young people and my local community to bite-sized knowledge about road safety, and to make them see the issue of safe mobility from a holistic lens, because it connects with other issues such as the climate change crisis and the gender inequality and so many other issues. So I began my journey using the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, because it was free and it gave me a direct and a quick access to young people in my community. And through these channels, I managed to do lots of awareness sessions and lots of events with young people in my country. And I managed to connect with different youth-led organizations in Jordan and in different countries as well. And I have learned from their experiences. And after that, I joined the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety as a member. And today I am proud to say that after a year, I am a regional leader at the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. And through the coalition, I managed to connect with young people from different countries around the world who speak different languages and who have different experiences on the road. And I have managed to use the assets and to benefit from the tools that the coalition provides, like the youth consultations and the local actions. So basically, the youth consultations is a tool that we use as young people to speak to our peers about the road safety and the safe mobility issues, and to diagnose the local situation in our communities. And we also brainstorm different ideas on how can we overcome these issues, how can we reduce fatalities, how can we protect our peers. And after that, we submitted our idea last year, and we managed to win the Local Actions Award, which is a seed funding and a mentorship. So we feel very grateful, we feel so empowered, and we believe that this changed our experience as young activists entirely. And we are so grateful for the Global Youth Coalition for this opportunity. Today, I can say that we overcame so many issues like the lack of funding, bureaucracy, and not finding a seat at the table. But after winning the Local Actions Award, we managed to bring our own table and invite all the decision makers from private sector and public sector in Jordan and speak directly to them, brainstorm different ideas on how can we tackle the road safety issues as young people. What do we need to prove ourselves for the decision makers in our communities? And since then, we are working on a youth manifesto document that addresses road safety from different perspectives. And we did so many sessions with young people. Today, we have over 30 young people who have added their input on our manifesto. And we have over 15 young people who have worked on the manifesto during the workshop. So this is the first step. We're not going to stop here because it's a long journey into stopping the death of young people on the roads. We are not going to rest until we achieve 0 fatalities and 0 serious injuries. So my message to young people is to join the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety and try your best to use the assets and the tools that the coalition provides, and believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. You can do it, and you can realize the future that you imagine if you work hard for it. And we are, as young people, are capable of proving ourselves. So happy International Youth Day. And we can do this. We can achieve a future with 0 fatalities and serious injuries caused by road crashes. We need to end this pandemic. Thank you so much, and I hope my story inspires you.
Organization to action change. Sana proving that some thought and interest and the pursuit of it is all that you need. Thank you so much, Sana. Moving on now, our penultimate speaker joining me from Switzerland, I believe, is Marie-Claire Graf, the global focal point Young Go at the United Nations Climate Change, young climate activist as well. I mean,
Marie-Claire coming from Switzerland, and so in the UN, in the United Nations, we love acronyms, and Young Go itself is also an acronym, but let me tell you, it's a very easy one. It's actually called Young NGOs. So Young Go is basically a network, and we talked before about institutionalization. So Young Go is a network, but actually we have a mandate in the UN climate change process, meaning that all young people around the globe up to the age of 35 can actually join Young Go, and with this, through Young Go, contribute meaningfully in the process to the United Nations and around the climate change policies. So when they set up the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the first international agreement, they already thought, well, we do need young people being here, being at the table and contribute. So this was happening over 30 years ago. So since the last 30 years, and more formally since the last 10 years, young people through this young so-called constituency have been engaging very meaningfully and very directly in the policy process. As you probably can imagine, there are many different things we're talking about climate, right? That's why we have dedicated working groups where young people can directly focus on something. So let me say you're very interested in climate and adaptation. And you're a young person, but you do not really know how your voice actually matters when it comes to these big international negotiations with 20,000 people all running around and talking in weird acronyms, and you do not understand anything. That's why we have dedicated working groups where young people come together. They also like part of a group, right? We talked about this before as well, how important this is. Have a community where they can change and then actually talk or write a submission directly in the climate negotiation process. And we see on several times, unfortunately not all the time, how there is reference to young people in the official text. So for example, probably all know more or less about the Paris Agreement, so this big international agreement where we're trying to fight the climate crisis. And there is something like a guideline how we're doing this. And for example, in there, under the part of education and raising awareness, which is so-called Action for Climate Empowerment, you have a direct reference to a policy paper which came from young people. So we see how actually our contributions can make it in this very complex policy work, and I think this is also one of our biggest impact. Of course, there is a networking part, there is part of encouraging each other, but many of us, or of all of us, really want to also impact this international framework, policy frameworks, and this is normally something which is like not really attractive and very hard to get in, but through this universally accessible constituencies, and Yango is only one of them, there are actually 9 of them, but we're covering children and youth, but there are others for indigenous people, women and gender, and so on. So yeah, this is a possibility how young people all around the globe can actually directly feed in their voice to this international process and be part of it. And also we are running every year the Conference of Youth, which is the biggest and most substantial conference where young people gather all of these voices and we bring it in one policy document, which everyone then can take and run with it and lobby for this common points when it comes to climate. Because we just saw last week again, now actually this week on Monday, when the new climate report came out, or the first chapter of the climate report came out, and they are basically saying that if you're not taking immediate action, like right now, there is very, very little hope. So this is exactly what we are doing. So thank you so much for having us here, and also line up with all the amazing youth speakers today.
I can't let you go without asking you, Mary Claire, how that report made you feel, because you are there, you're trying to speak politics to politicians, which at the best of times can be really difficult, especially when they have preconceived notions of what a young person is and where their place should be. So just as a very, very quick follow-up, how do you feel when you see reports like this not matching up to the tables and to the directives and to the actual ratification of laws and regulations that need to be adapted and put into place? How do you feel when you see all of this?
Yeah, thanks so much for this question. And while it's very draining, and I mean, working on this topic alone is already so draining and frustrating, and there are more times when I kind of lose the hope, because seeing all of this makes me also very disappointed and frustrated and depressed. But then having the community again who is kind of living up and continuing. But just to give you a quote, because you mentioned it, or give you a very little story about it, because you mentioned it, like, where is the place of young people? I had the privilege and honor to serve as an official governmental negotiator back in 2019 at the 25th World Climate Conference. I was the youngest ever negotiator for the government of Switzerland. When I was in the negotiation, and then an older guy came up and asked me where the negotiator of Switzerland is. I told him, like, I am here, right? We can talk. And he's like, no, I want to talk to the negotiator. I was like, I'm here, we can talk, let's have a talk. And then he was like, no, it's okay, and then he went away. So clearly he couldn't understand that young people can actually sit right there at the table and make this decision and negotiate. And we're not on the back seat or we are outside and demonstrating, but we can actually sit at the tables as well. And I think this is really, really important. It's a mindset shift, right? Which comes along with also, if you're understanding young people as right holders in this conversation, and we see the science as the baseline, then we're going in the right direction.
Marie Claire Graff, thank you so much for that. This idea of when you're feeling down, when you know that the hill is there for you to climb, you have a community, and the community is watching this live stream now. So make sure that you are sending in your thoughts and your opinions and your questions and what you've enjoyed most. Write it in the chat section. And when this is all done, share these videos with people just like you, who care, who want to be part of the change and might need a little bit of inspiration. Now, we move on to Matthew Chao. As mentioned before, he's the Regional Director for Asia Pacific for the International Federation of Medical Students Association, and I hope we can see his contribution next.
Hi, my name is Matthew, and I'm the IFMSA Regional Director for the Asia Pacific, and I'm also a fifth-year medical student studying at the University of Hong Kong. And today I've been kindly asked to share a little bit about how IFMSA works in the realm of meaningful youth engagement. So a little bit about how we involve ourselves in meaningful youth engagement. So firstly, we have our policy document on MYE, and this really underpins all the work that we do to aim to achieve better health globally. And so our work includes educating, so educating the general public, educating ourselves, building capacity, having advocating in various different platforms and also undertaking various different campaigns. So I have 3 examples here with us. Firstly, in our organization called FMS Taiwan, so they have a student representative in the National Dean's Meeting, in which they're able to provide a student perspective on medical education issues, as we believe that as future healthcare professionals, as medical students, we have an intrinsic stake, an inherent stake in medical education, as this is for us, and it should also be by us. And also, FMS Taiwan also collaborates with various doctors' unions to voice concerns to various governmental and non-governmental organizations about the working environment in the Taiwanese healthcare system. Secondly, in Australia, they co-launched a high-level framework that set the reform agenda for mental health of doctors, medical students, and this was funded by the Australian government directly. So there was governmental support in the decision-making process of making sure that mental health of healthcare professionals was safeguarded. And in Thailand, they aim to achieve youth empowerment and meaningful youth participation via their external partners. And so most notably, they have a National Health Assembly. And as a stakeholder, they were able to contribute to discussion and suggest changes to policies with the youth aspect or perspective. And so last year, they were able to give statements regarding food security and health emergency in times of crisis. And they also held a side event as the moderator alongside the National Health Commission Office, the International Health Policy Program, and the World Health Organization. And because of the successes at the National Health Assembly, they were also invited to the citywide Bangkok Health Assembly as well for their participation and their input into that level of citywide health processes and policies. And because of that excellent representation, then the NHCO and Thai Health suggested a collaboration to hold a health assembly to specifically tackle the rising impact of PM 2.5. And it actually turned a little bit more into a health hack situation by having youth from different sectors, so health or non-health related, to create policies and social innovation ideas and present it to government sectors. And this was a first ever large-scale government project run by youth, and it was attended by many governmental ministers and governmental officials. So that partnership really helped gain credibility, and it had some constructive outcomes, particularly about suggesting for a more youth-led approach and so overall, within each and every cultural context, national context, we really try to solidify the voices of the youth by understanding the stakeholders and the quality of external representation.
Thank you, Matthew Chao. Now, we're nearly at the point where we have to start wrapping up, but before we get there, I have another artistic expression from you, from the amazing folks at Yamu. We have a music video, and we are very excited to announce that this will be the official anthem of the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. It's called Claiming It. Make sure that you are sharing your reactions and comments as you watch this video. We'd love to know what you think. Get ready to get up off your stool, dance a little bit, have a little bit of fun. I'm pleased to be introducing Prophet, aka Prince of Africa, Kwagala, Esther, Vanimesh, and Words of Wake with their amazing, brilliant, fantastic, oh, you get it. You're gonna watch it all now. This is Claiming It.
I am more than just a statistic. You see, thanks to my existence, the society can now be optimistic about the future. But with all these road crashes, how do you expect me to get to my future? Huh? My father used to say, work hard and make your life an easy one. But the road to my destiny is not an easy one. They say that life is what you make it, but how will I make it when decision makers won't let me be a participant? I can see what is happening to Mother Nature. Climate change is all around me, I don't need a lecture. No, I don't wanna sit back, I wanna take charge. All I need is opportunity, it doesn't take much.
These streets are my only hope to the future. Will you walk with me, walk with me? I won't stop claiming it. Stop blaming me, a voicemail. Claiming it. Safe road down. Claiming it. Safe space. Claiming it. Clean air, what? Claiming it. Stop blaming me. There's no planet B. Safe road. Claiming it, yeah.
Yeah, we're claiming it. I said, we're claiming it. Yeah, we're claiming it. I'm finding me shit. We're claiming it. Zebura crossing, zafuka decoration. Chechini mweno nation. Wabedewo education. Kubyenkozesa y'ekkubo okulungamya abatambula abavuzi n'abasaabaza amateeka ku kkubo. Nawega kwasibwe mama Africa okusanyawo obutonde kutema ttabi gwe kwotudde. Abavubuka naddala abakyala twetaaga participation mu kukola decision ez'eno generation.
To the future. Will you walk with me, walk with me? I won't stop claiming it. Stop blaming me, a voicemail. Claiming it. Safe road down. Claiming it. Safe space. Claiming it. Clean air, what? Claiming it. Stop blaming me. There's no planet B. Safe road. Claiming it, yeah. We're claiming it, yeah. 'Cause we are the youth of the world. We need our voices to be heard. We're working together to make the earth better. With good roads to ride on, clean air to breathe in, a better place for you
African
and
Prince.
me.
We need a seat with the leaders, not on the side with cheers. Our influence is bigger than all the fears. That's why we drive on the road on full gears. Over 1 million youth perish, it all brings tears. Climate change, save our green earth space. Young minds can combine to save our race. The ecosystem is all at stake. Emission from cars not giving us a break. The youth don't drive so clear, no seatbelts on, slow down, speed kills out there. Give us a chance to speak, we can articulate the facts. Work with us more, we can surely reduce the deaths.
These streets are my only hope to the future. Will you walk with me, walk with me? I won't stop claiming it. Stop blaming me, a voicemail. Claiming it. Safe road down. Claiming it. Safe space. Claiming it. Clean air, what? Claiming it. Stop blaming me. There's no planet B. Safe road. Claiming it, yeah. We're claiming it, yeah.
I know you were all up dancing, getting down, having a little shake to that amazing tune. We officially adopt it as the Global Youth Coalition's theme song, claiming it. Thank you, Yamu. That is nearly it for us. But before we go, we want to wrap up with this live stream with a informative and fun. Hopefully you've enjoyed both of it. Sort of catch up with the last word being said from Floor Lieshout, the Executive Director of Yours Youth for Road Safety. Now, in this address, I hope you really take to heart the message that Floor wants to send out. And I want to know what you think of everything she has to say.
Hey, thank you, Nelifar. Hi, everybody. This is Floor from the Netherlands. Absolutely a big pleasure to be here today, and I'm just blown away by all these amazing remarks from all these youth leaders from around the world and the artistic interventions. Wow. If you're not yet convinced about what young people can bring to the table, watch this session again, I would say. In my closing remarks, I have two messages. Believe it or not, I was a youth advocate once when I was 17, back in 2002, 2003. And I had my fair share of youth tokenism. I had my fair share of facing barriers, difficulties, perceived or real. And I was thinking about that during the session, how did I overcome that? How did we overcome that? And what was really helpful was that we were not alone, that we were supported. And I think that's exactly what this Global Youth Coalition is trying to do. We are trying to support youth leaders with resources, with partnerships, with capacity development opportunities, with seed funding, offer opportunities to network, to share ideas. So I think my first message would be join the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. Let's find the interconnectedness between all these issues and work together. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, let's go together. So that's, I think, my first invitation. That's my first message, is an invitation to all these youth leaders from around the world. Join the coalition. We would love to learn from you and work with you. Second point would be to governments. If you are not yet working in a meaningful way, now we know what meaningful youth participation is, let's talk. Let's talk. We are here to support you. We're here to help. And it will bring you so much, and will bring you so much to your policy making, policy implementation, if you meaningfully engage with youth leaders. Let's talk about how do we get that seat ready for youth leadership. Those are my two messages, I think, for today. I would love to see what Mohammed is producing right now and to see his final results. Absolutely blown away. Thank you so much. And I'm going to end here, and back to you, Nelafar.
Thank you, Floor Lishout, the Executive Director of Yours Youth for Road Safety. He and his message are absolutely pivotal to any success that we hope to collectively have. Okay, it's time to go back to our resident artist. Drawing on his iPad there is Muhammad Ali. Muhammad, let's see what you have been creating. That looks incredible. Right. There are so many layers to it. How are you able to do this? Where do you keep this skill in your brain? Have you enjoyed the show as you've been listening in? And tell us a little bit about what we're looking at right now.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just really, to be honest, it's totally improvisation. Me just playing and listening and absorbing the things I've been hearing. I enjoy doing that a lot. Just sometimes I like the pressure, actually, of just responding on the fly and not knowing if it's going to be even any good, to be honest with you. I quite like that pressure.
I'm not having that. I'm not having you doubt yourself. I can see Streets for Life. I can see Claiming It. I can see people at bullhorns and getting their views across. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is absolutely going to be all over our social media. I hope you've enjoyed this experience.
Yeah. I mean, anything that's about taking art and making it, beyond art for art's sake, as I mentioned at the start, it makes my life more fulfilling and so absolutely always good for kind of important causes. So, thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure, Muhammad Ali. Thank you. Now that brings us to the end of this very busy and art-filled live stream. Yes, we have had lots of technical glitches along the way, and there have been a few gremlins crawling around the internet trying to make this hard. But any journey to success will have bumps in the road. I hope you know that and you take that on board in whatever way that you want to progress our agenda at the Global Youth Coalition for Road Safety. Now, are you following us? You're not? What are you doing? Get on board. Come on to claimingourspace.org. Join our mission statement, and keep in touch with the latest news and developments from around the world. Find your community. That's what I'm hoping you do. More importantly, keep this conversation going and keep fighting for a world with no more youth tokenism. I know you're sick of it. I sure am. Now, that is all from us. I am Niloufar Hidayat. It's been my pleasure to be your host. My special thanks to Manpreet and Raquel for making this event happen. And thank you, our wonderful viewers, for watching. That is all from us. Goodbye.